Hi, it's Steve Grizzetti, co-founder of MoviePix.com and author of the MoviePix.com Guides to Adobe Premiere Elements and Adobe Photoshop Elements, as well as cool tricks and hot tips for Adobe Premiere Elements. And this is one of our cool tricks, trick number 5. We're going to create a meteor shower, and we're going to do it by using a standard effect in Premiere Elements, but in an unusual way. So we've got some footage here of the skyline of Long Beach, California, driving down the highway. We're going to throw a meteor up in the sky. So I'm just going to position the playhead kind of randomly right now. And we'll go over to the effects button here on the toolbar on the right. And then we're going to do a search by clicking on this magnifying glass and typing in the word lens flare. Actually, all I need to do is type in the word lens, and there is my lens flare. I'll drag that down onto the clip. And there's my lens flare. Now, most of the time, lens flares are used to create a specific effect, as if you're aiming the camera at a light source or at the sun, and you get kind of this cool thing in your lenses. We're going to use it for an unusual purpose. And so with the lens flare here appearing on our monitor, we're going to go over here to Applied Effects, and we're going to change the lens type to 35mm. That gives me a more intense flare. I'm also going to set the flare brightness to about 70–75%. There's my fire in the sky. I can, of course, change its position either by changing the numbers here for flare center or by clicking and dragging. That's called scrubbing. But I find the most intuitive way to change the position for my lens flare is simply to select the lens flare effect here in the Applied Effects panel. That gives me a crosshair for my lens flare, and I can drag it up to the upper right-hand corner, even off screen. And that's going to be the initial position for my flare. Let's open that back up. And then I'll open up the keyframe controller. That's where we create our animation and keyframing effects. So click on the stopwatch at the top of the Applied Effects panel. That opens up our keyframe controller. And then we toggle on animation. That's our initial position for that lens flare. We want our lens flare or our meteor to move rather quickly. So we're going to just move the playhead a little further down the timeline. I'm not sure how far that is. Maybe that's a second. That may be a little long. We can make adjustments later. And then I'm going to reposition the lens flare. Well, since it's off screen, it's going to be a little hard to locate. So I'm just going to move it until it appears on screen here. There it is. And now I can select the effect in the Applied Effects panel and drag the flare into position. Just drag it right off screen. So that is our animation. Simple as that. Let's see how it looks when we play it. That looks a little more like a flying saucer coming in for a landing than it does for a meteor strike. So let's move these little keyframes a lot closer together. And now let's see what happens when we play it. That's better. Maybe we can even move them closer together. That's pretty good. That looks like a meteor. Now, to really underline the effect, we're going to come over here to Project Assets. I have kind of a cool special effect here, the alien whoosh sound, the alien whoosh sound. So I'm going to take the playhead, move it to right where that meteor appears, and that's where I'm going to drag my alien whoosh sound to right below that. Let's see how that looks. All right, not a bad effect. Now we can duplicate that effect if we'd like. One of the simplest ways to do it is to just go over here to the Applied Effects panel, and we can just right click on it, select copy and paste, and we can create several lens flares with pretty much the same properties over and over, just pasting and pasting and pasting, and simply move these keyframes over, stagger their position. Now they're all going to follow exactly the same path in this particular case, but it's a good starting point. And I'll need lots of sound effects here. Every time I see a lens flare, I'm going to add another whoosh sound. And so our result looks something like this. Now, naturally, we could move those around a little bit, reposition them, change the positions, and actually create a firestorm of meteorite attacks. But it's a pretty cool effect, pretty easy to create, simply using the lens flare as our meteor and then animating its motion to create the meteor strike. Now, if you want to know step-by-step how to create this and 49 other really cool effects, you'll want to check out Cool Tricks and Hot Tips for Adobe Premiere Elements. And we'd love to see you at MoviePix.com, where we got lots of great tutorials, tips, and books available for you. I'm Steve Grizzetti. Hope to see you again real soon.